my underwriting criteria is, and I'm a very conservative underwriter. I really like to under promise and over deliver on those promises
Exactly.
over the life of the investment. So I very conservatively estimate what kind of return I can get, and I don't pull the trigger on a property if it's going to be less than a 14% IRR. That's kind of my bottom line. So I basically tell investors that I'm very certain that I can at least provide you this. Otherwise, I wouldn't be pulling the trigger. And that's kind of how I present my deals to
Yeah.
people.
Nice.
That's just the way I prefer to do that. I'd much rather call and explain how I was so far off in my projections, but I gave you a way more money than
Yeah.
explain the other way around. That doesn't sound like fun at all. So
Yeah, exactly. But I'm curious, like, because I remember like one time you were working out a deal, like it was 2 million something, and just about that time for close, like you were able to collect the whole cash. I think
oh
my
yeah.
question, because I know at that time probably it was a tough moment for you, like you were just running here and there, but how were you able to find those investors and convince them to just jump and invest with you?
Yeah, so that my the last syndication that I did was in the fall of 2022, and it was a great opportunity. A broker relationship that I'd had for a long time. He kind of brought me a deal, and it made sense, and we went after it. But this was during the historic rate hikes, so we got under contract and got a quote on our debt, our Fannie Mae loan for 4.99, which we were psyched. That was gonna be a real easy deal to sell. And it took about 45 days, and now the quote was 5.99. So in a matter of us being under contract, getting to closing, we had lost a whole percentage point on the deal. So
Oh,
that was really causing some stress. And then it was also the biggest deal I'd ever done. So we had to raise $2 million of down payment, cash reserves, all the things that we needed the capital for, and we needed like 1.87 and some change on the day of closing to close, to be able to close and continue. So because as long as you can close, you can continue raising past the closing date to get to
mm,
whatever your target amount was, which is
mm,
what we ended up doing. But uh, on the basically the 45 days or so of however long the raise was between getting it under contract, getting the lawyers to approve all the paperwork, and then presenting it to investors, it was among the most stressful of my life. Just to,
I can
I called
imagine that.
everybody I'd ever met. I already had a investors that had invested me before and knew the system. They were good to go, but as you might imagine, not all my investors can drop $250,000. So all I needed was eight of those guys to.
Yeah.
I didn't have any of those guys, so it was all. I mean, my average investment size was, I'd say, in that investment was probably about 40,000.
Mm,
We have about 34 investors or something on that deal, but basically it was me racking my brain. Anybody I'd ever even whispered about real estate to over the past 10
yeah.
years of my life. I was scrolling through my
Let
phone
me
like,
get
who have
back
I
to that
not called? Who have
person.
I not talked to? It was very stressful. And on the morning of closing, I knew it was coming, but we needed the one more wire into the bank account on the morning of closing to be able to close. I had the title company going, hey, when do you want to send this wire in? I was like, as soon as this other wire hits the account. So I was at the bank and making calls. It was like
It's a
1.8
tough
million
time.
and some change. Was by far the biggest wire I'd ever sent in my life, and it was a crazy feeling. But when that final on the morning of closing, when that final investment hit, if it was somebody's self-directed IRA that had just taken forever to go through, I was like, oh, thank goodness, finally. So then I sprinted back to the bank and did the wire and everything, and it went through, and we ended up raising a few more 100,000 after that just to cover all the budgets that we wanted. But it was a very emotional event for me to finally see that last bit trickle in right in the nick of time to be able to close.